All right, the last strategy we covered for multiplication was an array, and I'm sure many of you have seen this before. I'm not sure if you knew what it was called, but it's actually given a name of array. Um, and it sounds so strange, but the kids enjoyed it. They thought it was fun to be able to draw these things. We got a definition of an array, and it's a set of objects arranged in rows and columns. The kids did struggle with the difference in a row and a column, and so I put that in the notes to kind of help them out. Most of the word problems you see that need an array will kind of lead you in that direction, as far as it'll tell you how many's in each row or how many rows they had or something of that nature. So those are some words to look for as we work through word problems. However, if it doesn't give you that information, you can always still make an array, even though it doesn't tell you that. And we'll talk about how that works in just a minute. So this one, we didn't get steps as much as we got tips. So I told them, and we made this cute little drawing. Some of them struggled through it a little bit, but we talked about rows go across and that columns go up and down. And so with that in mind, if we were given a multiplication sentence, then our first factor would be our rows. We would use it as our rows, the number of rows that we need. And the second factor would be the number of columns, or the number in each row. And so with the case of Lee and his garden that he was planting, he needed 3 rows and he wanted 6 plants in each row. So I did this 2 different ways with the kids, and I'm about to show you how I did it. I did it one way with the morning class and one way with the afternoon class, and it appeared the way I did it with the afternoon class may have worked a little better. So I will review both when I go over this for the test. So let's use Lee's 3 rows with 6 plants in each row from our problem, and I'll reconstruct this part of it so that you can see how we did this. In the afternoon class, we went ahead and talked about how many we would have in each row. So if we have to have 3 rows with 6 in each row, we would go ahead and construct our whole entire row first. Because when I was trying to teach the morning class to put the rows down first, they were seeing the column, and I think that's what kind of confused them a little bit. So I will reteach on this a little bit. So we have our first row in place that has 6 in it. Next, we can go ahead and mark out for our next 2 rows at that point. So as you can see, I've got 3 rows started here. And I'm just going to fill in for each plant that should be in each row. Something that we had to talk about and the kids needed a little bit of help on to make sure they were checking behind themselves. They need to make sure they line up. Every column, you can see clearly that you don't end up with one of yours here when it should be here or here, and that they went straight across. We also talked about we don't always have to use squares. We can use circles, we can use hearts, we can use stars, we could use dots. However, it kind of struck us at that point. If, Lee was planting plants, I could have used flowers for each one of them and just line them up in a row. So sometimes those kind of things kind of help them get into what they're doing. And so this would be what the array would look like. We would have 3 rows and 6 columns. And at that point, we talked about that we could count everything here to get our answer. We talked about we could skip count. So this would be 6 going across. So we would have 6 here, plus 6 more would be 12. Plus 6 more would be 18. Or we could count our 3s each row. We could count each column that had 3 each in it. So we would have 3 and 6 and 9, 12, 15. Oops. And see, I didn't even add right. That's okay. And then we would have 18. We all make mistakes. And the kids see that all the time when we do make mistakes. That, oops, that can happen. So, and some of them have done that. So anyway, I just got ahead of myself. Anyhow, so we can also skip count on these to get to our answer, which would be 18. So this is an array. They do understand how to construct one. And they do understand that there are a certain amount that go in a row, certain amount that go in a column, and that we can count them all, or we can count in groups, however we want to do that, just as long as we can come to this answer that we would need. If this is tripping your child up for any reason, please do not hesitate to contact me. Again, I will recover this again with the students before the test for sure, because I did do it 2 different ways. And the second way, which I just showed you, seemed to work a little bit better, to go ahead and get this first row in place and then fill in the rest of what's going on here. If you want to hit it with your child, go for it, and then we will do it again in class so that they can see it one more time. If you have questions, please contact me, and I will be glad to help you out best I can. Thank you.